Greetings, Pokemon fans, and happy Halloween! May your pumpkaboo be supersize and your candy be rare. I wanted to do a spookier video than usual for the Halloween season, but after carving through creepypasta, fan games, and even a general top 10 creepiest things in Pokemon video, I'm starting to run out of ammo. But you know what never runs out of horrific details? The PokeDex. This little book of horrors is always host to some of the strangest, most nonsensical, most violently graphic Pokemon descriptions ever. It's been a year since I last cranked one of these babies out for Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and what better time to revisit the book than Halloween night? Without further ado, here's 10 weird and creepy Pokedex entries, 6th edition. Traditionally, I like to save the more horrifying entries in the decks for the end, and explore some of the goofier entries at the front. Here's 2 of the sillier ones I was able to find, both fire types. Starting the day off is Entei, reminding us of how confusing legendary Pokemon are. First from Silver. Volcanoes erupt when it barks. Unable to restrain its extreme power, it races headlong around the land. And then from Gold. It is said that one is born every time a new volcano appears. It's always funny to me how different Pokemon canon deal with the existence of legendary Pokemon. For the most part, I always thought there was just one of each legendary Pokemon within a world that they inhabit. But every once in a while, you get weird things like the baby Lugia in the anime. Apparently, there's baby Entei as well, sprouting up every single time a new volcano appears. Not only that, but Entei also has this sick combo where it barks to blow these things up after it's born. Now, I don't know how many new volcanoes appear in Pokemon, but in the real world, we're getting new volcanic islands all the time. The Pokemon community might want to start investing in Entei muzzles for the dozens of Entei roaming around about now. Remember the last time a volcano erupted in Pokemon? Whoops! Our second Pokedex entry in the weird category is Magcargo from Sapphire. Magcargo's body temperature is approximately 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Water is vaporized on contact. If this Pokemon is caught in the raindrops instantly turn into steam, cloaking the area in a thick fog. Now, we've talked about this before, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Pokemon takes place on the same world as our own. I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that their Earth and their Sun are similar to ours in composition. And if that's the case, then this is pure nonsense, because 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit would be almost twice that of the surface of the Sun. While the core of the Sun is clearly much hotter, both the surface of the Sun and our own Earth's core are estimated to be around 6,000 degrees Celsius or 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. With Magcargo pushing 10,000 degrees Celsius or nearly 20,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it should be doing a whole lot more than making rain turn into steam. I can do that with a warm frying pan.
Hey, I know! I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan!
Magcargo should be melting through the surface of the Earth, incinerating humans that got anywhere near it, and a whole lot of other nasty stuff. Speaking of nasty stuff brings us Parasect. Most of its Pokedex entries hint at the same thing, but I think Leaf Green's entry spills it out the most cleanly. A host-parasite pair in which the parasite mushroom has taken over the host bug. Prefers damp places. When I was younger, I always assumed Parasect was a bug with a mushroom-shaped back, but the truth is far more insidious. Parasect isn't really this, it's this, the mushroom on top. It makes sense now that going from Paras to Parasect, the eyes become completely glazed over. Parasect is just a slave to the fungi that controls its insect body. The most terrifying thing is that this actually happens in real life. A popular example of this is the fungus Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, which can take control of the brains and actions of ants, growing within them and essentially turning them into zombie slaves to serve the fungus. You might have seen a fictional strain of this fungus in The Last of Us story, where a strain of cordyceps bonds with humans. But who knew that nearly 2 decades before that game, Pokemon had its own zombie? If you're searching for more post-apocalyptic future, it turns out that Zatu might know a thing or two. According to his entry from Ruby, Zatu stands rooted and still in one spot all day long. People believe that this Pokemon does so out of fear of the terrible things it has foreseen in the future. Hey, Zatu? Hey, buddy, are you gonna be okay? He's not moving, man. He's just sitting there, staring deep off into space. What do you see, man? What do you see? Give us a warning or something! What do you know that we don't? It wouldn't be a creepy Pokedex entries video without something terrible happening to children, so today we have Gothorita from Black 2 White 2. According to many old tales, it creates friends for itself by controlling sleeping children on starry nights. Now I will admit that this is definitely a step up from some of the other serial kidnappers that we've seen before in Pokemon. It's just kinda sad. All Gothorita wanted was a few friends to play with. Just a few hypnotized and kidnapped friends is all, right? You know, kids, all this can be avoided if you just never sleep ever. No dreams eaten, no nightmares, no nighttime friend hypnosis. Just stop sleeping. That should cure it. Alright, who's hungry? Because these last few entries are all about Pokemon getting a bite to eat. Caracosta, Black 2 White 2. It could knock out a foe with a slap from one of its developed front appendages and chew it up. Shell or bones and all. Now, we've seen that horrific phrase, bones and all, before in the past. Victory Bell melts you in its stomach acid, bones and all. But I love how specific Caracosta had to be. It'll chew you up, bones, or shell and all. In case, you thought having a shell made you safe. Actually, speaking of shells, here's Omastar from Gold. Apparently, it cracked Shelter's shell with its sharp fangs and sucked out the insides. Ugh, there's actually a lot going on here. One is that it's obviously disgusting. I don't like thinking about the insides of a Pokemon being sucked out like a straw. But there's two Shelter-related Dex entries that I found to be hilarious tie-ins. Shelter from Red and Blue claims that its hard shell repels any kind of attack. It is vulnerable only when its shell is open. Alright, so only vulnerable when it's open. But Omastar over here claims that he's cracking you open and turning you into a nice tropical beverage. Who's telling the truth here? But there is a second creepy Shelter-related Pokedex description, and it comes from Slowking's Crystal entry. Every time it yawns, Shelter injects more poison into it. The poison makes it more intelligent. As we all know, whether a Shelter bites a Slowpoke's tail or head will determine which evolution it will get. I guess that the hidden ingredient to reaching the incredible levels of intelligence is actually brain poison. See that, Omastar? Maybe if you were getting your daily dose of brain poison on instead of slurping Shelter known, you wouldn't have gone extinct. Owned.
I could use pants.
Oh, brain poison. What wonders you have unlocked. Sometimes, the creepiest thing about a Pokemon is realizing that they even can eat. Metagross is the result of two Metang achieving fusion. When hunting, this Pokemon pins the prey to the ground under its massive body. It then eats the helpless victim using the large mouth on its stomach. Aside from this just being brutal, the first time I read this one, something just didn't sit right with me. The large mouth on its stomach? Growing up, all I ever saw of Metagross was the sprite and the Ken Sugimori artwork. I just assumed it to be a moving piece of metal that doesn't have a mouth or eat, like a Magnemite or something. But no, this thing is terrifying. If you've never seen the Metamouth before, wait for it. There it is, and oh man, is it scary! It's also all over the TCG, and for some helpless Pokemon creatures, it's the last thing that they'll get to see before they're eaten alive. And our final Pokemon during the snack time session, and our last Pokedex entry in general today, comes from Golbat in Emerald. Its fangs easily puncture even thick animal hide. It loves to feast on the blood of people and Pokemon. It flits about in darkness and strikes from behind. Now, at face value, I suppose this isn't too hard to believe. The vampire bat drinks blood, so why wouldn't the bat Pokemon? Very rarely do Pokedex entries mention feasting off of humans directly, making Golbat a threat to our way of life. Also, a common vampire bat has a wingspan of around 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Golbat, on the other hand, we're looking at around 5 feet or 1.6 meters. That is almost 10 times more bat to go around. But if a bloodthirsty bat with a wingspan the size of an adult creeps you out a little bit too much, here's a lighter take on the creature from Silver for you. It can drink more than 10 ounces of blood at once. If it has had too much, it gets heavy and flies clumsily. So I guess if Golbat gets a little too rambunctious with its meals, it appears the thing can get, well, drunk off of blood. Whatever you're up to this Halloween night, I hope that you got a kick out of these Pokedex entries. Whether you're partying, trick-or-treating, or just checking your Pokedex for more spooky entries on your own Pokemon games, have a good one. Stay safe, and if you're a Golbat especially, drink responsibly. You can find a few other spooky videos that we've done with Pokemon right here. And if you want updates when new videos drop, you can click this button down below to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time, once I wake up from my candy coma.